Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I am your host, and I have a superhero on today. Like, this guy's a real life superhero. George Campbell, stay with me. This guy is a Hall of Fame speaker, so you want to hang out here. Stay with me and share this out. All right, we're back. Let me bring George on. George, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to have you here. I've been told that you're a comedian.
I keep telling people that, but when I tell them, they just laugh, and I find that to be hurtful. I'll just...
You find it to be hurtful. I get it. I get it. I've been told I'm funny, and I always say funny looking. Is that what you mean? I'm not
What, I
sure
make
what
you
that
laugh?
means.
What, I'm a comedian?
So, George, you know what? I created this show 3 years, a little over 3 years ago, and it really was to help people have a breakthrough in life, like get through the stuff. The stuff can be painful sometimes. So, I like to hear people's stories about how they got unstuck. I'm assuming that once in a while you get stuck.
Yeah, that's kind of that's pretty much my default position. I was just thinking, if this show is about helping people, then this is going to be a nice break from what you normally do. This is...
Right. So, hey, why don't you tell everybody where you were, where you were born and raised?
I was born in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which that's down in the southeast corner of Missouri. And that was like one of the most challenging things when I was growing up, because every year when you'd start a new school year, you had to fill out the forms, and it's, where were you born? And as a 7-year-old trying to spell Girardeau, which is French, I mean, I'm just like, you know what, St. Louis, let's just go with that, because there's no way I can spell Girardeau. It's not possible. Then my folks, my dad worked for the railroad, and we moved pretty much every 3 or 4 years forever. I went to like 7 schools between, first grade and high school. So I lived all over the Midwest.
Wow. So can you spell Girardeau now?
Yes. ST period, capital LOUIS.
That's funny. You know what? I just went through there. I drove to Dallas to speak at an event down there 1 month ago, actually. And I went through St. Louis, and the traffic's interesting.
Yeah. I'm not, my folks lived outside of St. Louis for a little bit, because we lived everywhere, apparently, in Fenton, Missouri. And I remember a buddy of mine, we were up there for some weekend, and I can't imagine what we were doing up there, but we decided we were in college, and we were going to go out and get away from the fam and go out and have a drink or something. And my mom, the last thing, she just don't go to East St. Louis. And we're like, we're not going to go to East St. Louis. Then we got on I whatever the I is up there, and we were talking and laughing, and we said, well, let's just get off here. And we get off, and it's like, welcome to East St. Louis. We're like, well, we didn't do that right.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, apparently they discourage it actively. So we got back on the highway and got out. But that's been my own. I've got very limited experience with St. Louis, other than lying that I was born there.
Yeah. So you said you lived all over the Midwest. Like, was Ohio ever in the?
No. It was Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, all the kind of the southern.
Gotcha.
The Midwest is a pretty ambiguous term.
It is.
There are a lot of places say that they're the Midwest, and I'm like, I think you maybe want to check that. But Iowa is supposed to be the most Midwestern state. And I've never lived in Iowa either. So there's that.
Yeah. I drove through Iowa once. It was the longest month of my life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If you catch it at the right time, which is like a lunar eclipse or something, I'm not sure exactly when. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like, but it's like, and you say Missouri. That's funny. My grandfather lived there. Everybody else calls it Missouri. Unless you're from there.
Yep.
Yeah, but he's buried there in Independence, Missouri, outside of Kansas City. But so you graduate, you go through school, you graduated high school, I'm assuming. Did you go to college?
I did. I went twice. They actually asked me back because they had never seen anyone with that low a GPA that was not a scholarship athlete. And so they wanted to bring me back and just see how he did that. And I showed them and they said, okay, I think you're free to go. So I consider myself in the 173rd semester of my sophomore year is the way I went. I don't know. I went like 3.5 years and I'm still only like 400 credits short of getting a degree. I don't know. I didn't do well. Yeah. It turned out that and if I have no interest in something, it turns out I have no interest in it. And so school fell into that category, and they didn't have a major for what I wanted, which was, I didn't know what I wanted. So it was just like, this is just a complete expensive waste of time. Yeah. And I actually sat down this was back in the day when instead of doing everything online, they had a course catalog that listed every single class you could take at the university. And I sat down as I was beginning to register for the spring semester. And I went through every single class and there was nothing I wanted to take. And I thought, oh my God, I've graduated. I didn't even know it. I held a little ceremony and lit candles and gave myself a present. And I said, I am so proud of you. This is awesome.
Did you buy one of those hats with the tassel?
I moved the tassel. I was my own speaker. I was my own commencement speaker, which was weird because the speaker at my commencement turned out to be drunk that day, and that I can't recommend. But it was funny.
Oh my God, that's funny. So you didn't graduate college. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? I did that in high school, my senior year. They said, hey, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade. And I'm like, yeah, I hated that class. It sucked. So I didn't go. And they're like, yeah, we know, but you need that to graduate. And I'm like, why? I'm not going to dissect a frog ever again. Like, why do I need biology? I hate that class. And they said, well, it's the rules. And I'm like, well, then that's a stupid rule. And I left and I never went back. Never went back. It didn't matter that I aced trigonometry and analytic geometry and all. They didn't care.
Never want to. That's right. You never want an education to get in the way of a diploma. Well, one of the things I discovered, I went to the University of Oklahoma, and this changed my life, is when I discovered that, there were certain classes that required prerequisites. And I can understand it if you're taking advanced trig 7 or whatever it is, you're probably going to want to have done well in 4 or 5. But for I was a journalism major theoretically, and I just wanted to, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but screenplays, I was interested in writing screenplays, but that was like a senior level course and you had to have all these prerequisites. And then I thought, well, what if I just register for the class? And that's when I discovered nobody checks prerequisites. So then I just went through and I just cherry picked everything that I thought was interesting to me. And some of the stuff I was way over my head, and I realized, okay, there's a reason why you probably should have learned something before this. But there's other stuff that I'm like, nah, I can just go for that immediately. I mean, the only prerequisite is, does the check clear, was really it. And then you're in the class. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a big scam, man, personally. Sorry.
Well, I understand that it's gotten much better since I went. I understand now it's supposed to be just pristine and lovely.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah. When in doubt, go
right.
with a blatant lie. I've lived my whole life that way. I don't think you can have a more sure path to success.
Oh my gosh. I gotta tell everybody. I told George, I'm not from here. I live in this little tiny town north of Columbus, way north of Columbus, Ohio. And I told George the name of the town. He goes, "Oh, there's a federal penitentiary there." I go, "No, it's state, but how do you know that? That's like random. Nobody knows that. Like even the local sheriff didn't realize it until now."
This is the weirdest thing about, I did stand-up comedy for 10 years. And one of the keys is to assimilate these bits of information that have absolutely no use until you can insert them inappropriately in some kind of conversation. And that is my entire brain. That is all it is just crap that I'm waiting to spout off about.
That is so funny. So the college thing still hasn't worked out for you. And I'm
hopeful to go back though. I really am.
Right. I never, because people are like, "Oh, you need to go get a GED," and I'm like, why? That feels like an admission of failure. I can't. I'm not doing it. So, but
I was just gonna say, I do think it would serve people really well to have a college equivalency degree. I really do think that would be a real, if you've learned all the stuff, then you should get the paper.
Right. I feel like I should have a PhD in life. I don't know, but I oftentimes thought, man, is life kicking my ass because I didn't get that diploma, or does this happen to everybody?
Yeah,
funny.
I think it depends. I think like a doctor, I'd like to see something on the wall with a seal of approval for that. Right. But for a comic, I quickly realized nobody was really checking out your resume that much. It was just kind of, are you funny or are you not funny? Right. If you're funny, you got to work, and if you didn't, you got to go somewhere else.
Right. So you exit at some point. You exit the college thing, and what did you do? Did you get a job? What did you do from there?
I flailed for 7, 8, 9 years probably. Just I worked at a medical school making training videos. I worked at a number of sales jobs, and I was terrible, just terrible. I'm very introverted by nature, even though people don't understand how you can be a speaker or a comic and still be introverted, but I was, and that just made sales really, really hard. And I finally, a buddy of mine at my 10th reunion, high school reunion, I was there, and a buddy of mine told me about going up for a open mic night at a comedy club. And he said it was terrible and awful. And I said, "Well, what kind of material did you do?" And he told me. I'm like, "Well, that's terrible and awful material. No wonder." And but it gave me, how it's like breaking the 4-minute mile. When somebody does it, then everybody can do it, or hundreds of people can do it. The fact that my buddy told me he actually went up and did this experience made it suddenly seem like, well, a person could do that, and I'm a person. I've checked. So I went up and I went to an open mic night, and one of my friends asked me, the afternoon before I went up, she says, "Well, you're going to do this, and then what?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I plan on being discovered and going immediately to work." And the funny thing was, I went up and I did like 12 minutes of original material out of the box, which I didn't even know was a lot. I didn't know anything. And the owner of the club, as I came off stage, said, "Hey, I've got work for you." And I literally went from open mic night to being full-time in comedy in like a month. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they paid you for it?
Not much, but yeah, it was more than I was making as a bad salesperson, and I certainly enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
So I spent 10 years on the road and
Wow.
worked my way up to where I was headlining most places, and then some of the bigger clubs that had name entertainment, I was a middle act, but and it was fun. I mean, my God, it was fun. That was at the height of comedy when every town had a comedy club, it seemed like, and with
Wow.
one call, I could book 26 weeks of work for a year, because there's like one club that had 13. It was a chain that had 13 clubs. You could work them twice a year. And literally with one call, you could book half your year. And
Wow.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And I made some great friends that I still stay in touch with, that I just
That's
hanging out with
awesome.
comics is it's different than hanging out with civilians. Gotta love them.
Yeah. So how long did you do that?
About 10 years.
Did you? Wow.
10 years. And then I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about working corporate because I had done some corporate work, because as far as a comedy club comic, I was unbelievably clean, and then clean enough that I would get opportunities to do corporate stuff. And I loved those audiences. They were so much easier, and that paid better, and the work was easier. And I thought I would like to do more of that. And I was trying to figure out an entree into that. And I were just sitting there in a conversation. I'll never forget this. And I said, it'd be really funny as a really bad motivational speaker. And this preceded the Chris Farley down by the river thing. And it took me like 2 years to figure it out. But I got the first one booked, and I went up, and I was like 2 minutes into the first, what became the Joe Malarkey, the worst motivational speaker in America show. I was 2 minutes in, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be doing this for a long time, because it flew. So I did that for, God, another 23, 24 years.
In a corporate setting.
Corporate and associations. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was good. Go ahead.
No, I mean, and you eventually became a Hall of Fame speaker.
That's one of the funniest things. I thought the people that loved the show the most and were most accepting were the people I was making fun of. I mean, my God, it was just, and I was like, wow, I did not see that coming, because that is not a normal human response. But yeah, I was 6 years into my professional speaking career when I was inducted in the Hall of Fame. And that was like a lifetime achievement award. And it was really, anytime your peers say, hey, you're doing good work, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. So what was some of the stuff you talked about? What was part of the skit? How have I not heard this?
I don't know, because I was huge, I tell you. I was on 60 Minutes with Morley Safer. He interviewed me. Yeah, he was doing a slam job on professional speakers, and they saw me as the perfect person that they could put into the piece that was funny, and it also kind of made their point, because I'm making fun of motivational speakers. And but when I met him for the interview, and they did 45 minutes of interview. And if you've been around media, you know that with 45 minutes, you can edit anybody to make them look like anything. So it was a terrifying thing. And he didn't know who I was. He had no idea why he was sitting down across from me. And so his first question to me, they turn on the lights, and we're rolling, Morley Safer. He's got this terrible blue plaid shirt with this other contrasting jacket, and I'm like, who dresses you? Seriously. And these are the thoughts. Instead of thinking, oh, you should be scared, that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking. And he stubs out his cigarette and blows his smoke and gets it on, and they clear it. All right. And then Morley looks at me and goes, aren't you really just taking money? Aren't you really just stealing from people? That was like question one out of the gate. And it was just like getting slapped, which I think was the whole purpose of the question. It was to knock you off balance, and to realize, holy crap, you're in a situation that whatever you say, 20 million people are going to say it. You've spent 10 years in stand-up and 10 years building this Joe Malarkey show, and you have the opportunity in the next 40 minutes to bring it all down. So,
God.
so that was a terrifying thing. But to answer your question, Joe Malarkey was kind of based around, I built the show. The name of the show is called Choose to Lose. And basically, I described Malarkey was a man who was extremely excited about some very bad ideas. And everything that a traditional motivational speaker would go this way, I would go that way. And when I was kind of formulating the show, once I came up with choose to lose, prevail to fail, prepare to err, have the panache to crash, have the thunder to blunder, have the pluck to suck. That was like one cornerstone of the show. And then there was, when I was trying to write the show and figure out why my guy was bad, I was watching late night TV, and there was a guy named Don Lomprey or something. I think that was his name. He's a young kid, and he would just sell these products, and he was so sincere, and he was so intense, and the products were total crap. And like one of them was the 9 ways of making money. There's 9 ways of making money. The first way, I'll tell you the first way is to buy low and sell high. And I thought, well, isn't that all the ways of making money? I mean, doesn't that just mean, isn't that all of them? Because if we're starting there, by the way we get to the 9th way, it's the 9th way of making money is to knock down little old ladies and take their purses. That's the 9th way of making money. So, but I loved his intensity and just the hubris of selling this crap. So I thought, okay, Malarkey's going to sell the worst things you've ever seen, and we're going to sell them with that exact same intensity. And then the kind of the last piece of the puzzle is I saw an interview with Don Knotts, and he was talking about the Barney Fife character, and he said the key to understanding Barney Fife is that he's a 5-year-old emotionally, and every thought that he has in his head plays immediately on his face. So there's no guile, even though he's trying to do stuff. You can see through it all. And so I thought, okay, well, that's going to be Malarkey, where everything I say or do, you're going to be able to read it on my face, what the actual Malarkey character is thinking. So that makes it sound like I'm way smarter than I am. But I put all those things together, and I kind of got the sense of what the character was and what he would talk about. And then it was just like, holy cow, it just took off. It was exactly the right show at exactly the right time. And it just went nuts.
And were there people in particular that you were, that they knew you were making fun of them?
I didn't have a target in particular. There were some pieces of material. It's like I was at a showcase one time, and a showcase was like, you had, I don't know, 15, 20 speakers that you would do 15 minutes of your program in front of a room full of people who could theoretically hire you. And at that event, I saw 3 people do what was called the chicken and eagle story, which is this old passed around story about, the eagle that thought he was a chicken and he never tried to fly because he thought he was, and there was that whole story. And it was just, I watched one person do it as a straight story. I watched one person do it as a song, and I watched one person do it as a poem over the course of the day. And they didn't realize the other people had done it. But, at this point, the audience is just rolling their eyes. And it was very funny. One of the other speakers came up to me, and you may know, Jeff Slutsky, because he's from Columbus.
I know the name.
Anyway,
I know the name.
Yeah. He used to live in Columbus. He lives in Kansas City now, but he came up to me and he grabbed me by the lapels and said, "You got to kill that story." And I thought I can kill that story. And so I wrote a whole piece that was like my signature piece for a long time. And I just took it and did what Malarkey would do with a story like that. And I just wanted to make it so that anybody else that ever said that to an audience after an audience had heard me was going to think that guy is the biggest hack I've ever heard. So I wanted to kill the story. So there was no one specifically that I was going after. I was just kind of going after the whole thing. It didn't matter, it was goal setting, it was affirmations, it was, it was time management, it was weight loss, it was all those memory programs, whatever anybody was talking about, what anybody was selling, I was just coming at it from a wrong way.
That's so funny. That's hilarious. So you did this, and I'm curious, like as you're going through, I mean, I've spoken at a handful of events. I'm not in a speakers bureau. I'm not. I don't even know what that really means. But I can't. I mean, I don't think I could ever see myself like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for a living. I just. I can't like, I don't, I mean, I could, but I just, it's not something I've ever pursued. What do you like? How do you get into that and go, okay, I'm going to start making money at this. And I know some speakers that are, that have done incredibly well financially. That how does that work? Like, how do you just start calling companies and going, hey, I want to speak at your next corporate event? Or how does that work?
Well, I mean, everybody's path is a little bit different. And I took a path that very few people could do, and it's not even possible now. I mean, at one point in time, I worked with like 80 different speakers bureaus, which means over the course of the year, they would have booked me at least once. And some of them would have booked me 15 times. And I started with speakers bureaus. And the rule is you can't. That is not the way you can break into the business. But I mean, it was the weirdest thing ever. There was another showcase, but this was at a like a convention for speakers bureaus. At the time, it was called IGAB, the International Group of Agents and Bureaus or whatever. And so speakers could pay money to have a chance to go up and do 17 minutes of material in front of these people. And I submitted a tape, and they turned me down. Because my tape, that's the hardest thing in the world in the beginning, is to get good tape, because it's a combination of having a great audience in a good room and good tech and everything else. It's really hard. And so they turned me down. And then because I had kind of broken this show in with a agent, I was living in Oklahoma at the time, and there was a bureau there that used to book me for comedy for corporate. And then he started booking the Joe Malarkey show. And he was a part of this group, and he called me up and he said, would you want to do that showcase? It's like a week out. And I said, yeah, but they've already turned me down. He goes, I can get you in. I said, well, how? He goes, well, one of the people that was going to do the showcase died. And so a slot is open. And if you want the slot, it's yours. And I'm like,
wow,
I don't even know how to feel about this. And I'm like, before I went up, would they tell them that I'm the person that just slipped into this dead person's spot because I'm apparently some sort of a horrible vampire? What would they even say? And so and it cost a whole lot of money at the time. I didn't have much money. I think it cost $750 or something to be in the showcase, plus your travel, plus everything else. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And so I went from, it was a Saturday morning that I went up and did 17 minutes, and no one in the room had any idea who I was or what I was about. And it just blew up. I mean, it was one of those shows. And I went to the phone bank at the time, because this predated cell phones. I went and got on a payphone and called my wife at the time. And I said, everything has changed. Everything. So I went from having nobody know who I was to having all these bureaus that were extremely interested in working with me. So that's how that happened. I mean, I don't know what I would have done, because I'm not going to make outbound marketing calls. I'm not going to do that. I'm not that guy. I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it. It's like work. And that's the last I did this whole thing so I wouldn't have to work. What do you know, so.
That's funny. I mean, being because you're an entrepreneur, you're self-employed, that can cause a lot of stress. I mean, you're only 36.
It's really aged me. That's, if you're talking emotionally, you may be like 24 years off. I'm not sure. In IQ, you're really shooting high.
Right, right. So, but I think I mean, it causes stress, right? You said I didn't have that much money. My wife and I have experienced that. It's like, hey, I'm going to take this $2,000 gamble on this course for this trip, business,
Right.
whatever. And it's like, well, what do we eat while you're gone? Like,
Yeah.
it's stressful. But it sounds like you had a what's the word? A vision? Did you have a some kind of a massive thing poking you on the inside, going, dude, you got to get this done?
I just felt like I had an irrational belief that it was going to work. Even before there was much evidence to that. And then I started getting evidence along the way that this show is the right show for the right time. And I know exactly, at that point, I mean, doing stand up was huge as far as preparing me for this. And I brought some skills into professional speaking that people were not used to seeing on that stage. There's just a different way that you write and present and structure for stand up than normal business humorists would do. And so I just believed I was right. And I ran into some headwind at the beginning, but I felt like the thing that's going to make me hard to book in the beginning is going to make me easy to book once I break through. It's just like the hook of the show, the worst motivational speaker in America, that's going to engender some resistance in the beginning. Because it's like, why would we do that? Why would we book the worst? But when you get on the other side of it, it's like, not only are people going to want to book it, you're the only store in town. So I just had that belief. And in fairness, I've been wrong about so many things. It's shocking that I was right about that one. But I just, I believed I was right. It's like when I look back at stand-up comedy, I had a successful very first time I ever went on stage. I was successful. And I probably had 6 shows just doing open mic nights and stuff after that I was successful before I had my first, what I would call, bad show. And I think back thinking, if that bad show had been the first one, would there have been a second one? And I'm not sure there would have been.
Right.
And so I had enough incremental encouragement and confirmation that I was on the right path that then once you start to hit some hiccups, you're like, that's the anomaly. That the other stuff is right. That's just this an odd thing that's going to happen. No, those things just happen.
Did you ever feel like you were lying to yourself? Like, or you just knew, you just kept going?
I couldn't get through the day without lying to myself. It's my central.
Right.
No, I don't know. I didn't ever feel like I was lying to myself. I just
kept pushing.
I just kept going. I just kept doing the next thing. That was always like, well, what's your big plan? I'm like, I don't know enough to have a big plan. I think this is, according to the knowledge that I have at this point, this seems like the next logical step to take. So let's take that and see what happens.
Did you know Zig?
Barely.
Did you? I'm just wondering if Zig ever came up and said anything to you.
I don't think Zig was ever aware of my existence on the planet. By the time I was around and I met some of the really big hitters from that time, I mean, Zig was pretty old.
Okay.
I met him once at the National Speakers Association, and then we ran into each other one time at DFW Airport. And I met Jim Rohn once. Yeah. But that was like, I was at the very beginning, and nobody at NSA at the time that I met most of these people, nobody at NSA even knew who I was. I hadn't been on the main stage yet. And I was just this guy. So
who's that guy that keeps hanging out at our meetings that thinks he's
but
funny?
it was funny because I came to the attention of some really unbelievably helpful people in my career really quick. they took me under their wing really quickly, and a couple of them said, we've got to get you on the NSA main stage as fast as we possibly can, so that somebody more established than you doesn't rip this off. And so I think the first event that I went to was in Orlando in '96, and I think at that time I was booked to do the winter workshop that in February or wherever it was. And so within 6 months, I was on the main stage at NSA. And then once that happens, then you're a little bit bulletproof. I had people try and infringe on the material a little bit. But the other thing was I was kind of bulletproof anyway, because Malarkey was one of these deals, because the structure was 180 degrees from anything that resembled correct. You couldn't rip it off. It was like you couldn't take a piece of it and put it in your program, because it was just like, what the hell? That's just the opposite of everything that you're saying. So you either had to rip off the whole thing or none of it. And I had people. There were occasions where people wanted to try and take the show, or, hey, listen, I'll do the lower fee things that you don't want to do. I'll do those because I can do this show. And I'm like, dude, I did 10 years of stand-up comedy. I've been doing this show for 10 years. And I'm telling you right now, there are days I can't do the show. So
right.
So the odds of you being able to pull this off are very small. So,
I mean, because Jim, which we'll talk about in a minute, but Jim had sent me a book to take to Jeffrey Gitomer when I was down there with him, and Jeffrey, his first word. I mean, Jeffrey's a legendary speaker as well, and he says his first words out of his mouth is, George Campbell is a genius, and the whole Joe Malarkey thing. And I said, what's that? And he said, oh, it's the skit that he does. It's funnier than hell. And he's a genius. And so, I mean, getting on the, this, I mean, it's really tough no matter what you're doing, whether you're a speaker or whatever. Like if you get on the right radar screen, right? Yeah. Until then, you're nothing. I mean, it sounds terrible to say, but you're nothing. You got to get on somebody's radar. They will help too if you're capable of showing that you have potential.
Yeah,
right? I can feel like Steve Martin and the Jerk. Like, I'm somebody.
When I come under the J's. This is the kind of spontaneous publicity that makes people. Yeah, I was unbelievably blessed to come to the attention of the right people almost instantly, which is great, because I don't know if I would have had the perseverance to stick it out. If it, I felt like for the very first 6 months of doing this show, as I was developing the show, and then finally I came in after about 6 months and I said, I've got the best show nobody knows about. And that's a very frustrating thing, to know that everything is telling me all the lights are green and I can't find a ride. And then that changed really, really quickly. And I met people, and I mean, for years, I had people that other speakers sold me. They would do a program. They would have good long-term clients, and they would talk to them. Listen, if you ever wanted somebody for your awards banquet or whatever, I've got the guy for you. And they would refer me business, and that happened all the time. And they're going to introduce me to people I'm never going to have the opportunity to meet. So I was unbelievably fortunate. There's no question about that. I'm grateful.
I'm curious what the most common response is. It's got to be like, tell me a joke or something. When you tell somebody, yeah, I'm a comic. I did stand-up comedy for years. And what do they say? Oh, well, can you make me laugh?
Mostly I tell people I sell insurance, and I find that just stops the conversation right there. And I'm good with that. What do you know about Amway? And I just find that oh, you know what? I am late for that thing I didn't even realize I had to go to.
What do you know about that? That's funny. That's great. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. Well, it's so, I mean, it really is. I mean, on planes, that conversation, and you're stuck. You've got 2.5 hours. And
Yeah.
I will avoid, because honestly, in those kind of situations, I'm so tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
I understand it's this combination of, it is interesting because it's so out there, and you don't run into many people like me. I mean, there are not many free range Campbells running around, and so I can understand. If it were the reverse, I would be asking questions too, but it just gets so painful. That's the reason why, honestly, I bought those big Bose noise canceling headphones, the kind that go over your ears. And 90% of the time, they're not even plugged into anything. They're just a statement that says, I really would prefer not to talk with you now. I think you're a lovely person, and I appreciate the fact that how hard it is to be an internal medicine doc, but I don't want to talk about
it. I don't want to talk about it. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I mean, it took an act of God just to get you on my show. So
yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'm grateful.
That was my fault. I missed
Oh
one.
no, I'm not talking about that. I think that you are funny, but I think that people don't understand they see somebody like you and they go, oh, he's a Hall of Fame speaker, so life's been easy for him. And right.
Have you checked in on the last year? Oh, for the love of God.
I know.
Yeah.
Are you still doing do you know Phil Sorrentino?
Yep.
He says, did he learn how to ride a scooter?
Yeah. That was at the very first thing that I did at NSA, that I was on the main stage. It was in Bermuda, and a bunch of us decided to rent scooters, and there were 2 of us on a scooter, and we're going down a hill, and it had just started to rain, and hit the turn, and it's the oil water mix. I go sideways, wreck the scooter, and we'd gone literally like 20 feet. So, and then I go back, and I'm like, okay. And then somebody picks us up and takes me to the hotel, because I don't want to go to the hospital. And then I realized, you know what? I'm not sure you can breathe, George. And I thought, you know what? Let's go to a hospital. I've never been to a hospital in Bermuda. Let's go see what they look like. And so I'd broken a couple ribs. And the funny thing was, I'm laying there on the pavement in Bermuda, and my career is starting to take off. And I'm laying there, and the rain is hitting me in the face. And I'm thinking, all right, this is Sunday. I've got to be in Des Moines on Tuesday. And then Des Moines, I got to be in Orlando. And, that's all. I'm just running my schedule in my head, because I'm thinking, I can't die. I'm booked. I would have to return deposits if I die. And I don't want to do that.
God. Did you make it?
Yeah. Well, apparently. Yeah. Although
no, I don't mean. Yeah, I came back from the dead. That's a Bermuda thing. No, did you make it to Des Moines?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did. I mean, I've been through broken leg. I broke my shoulder in 2 places in Hawaii, and then I'm traveling, and I've got my arm in a sling, and traveling with your arm in a sling is that's a delightful experience, and trying to wrestle luggage and everything else, and it was just. And then I would take my arm out of the sling to do the shows, but I can't raise my left. This is like the traditional malarkey gesture. I couldn't even raise my arm enough to do that. So all the gestures were down here, but you're booked. You got to go. So.
Oh my gosh. You said you were making fun of that one. Was it Don Dupree? Is that the guy's name? Don Dupree. He was like a young kid with dark hair.
Yep.
Oh my! And always standing with an ocean behind him.
Yeah. Oh my God. He was just like, oh my God, can you believe how successful I am? I'm young, I'm good looking, and that being young and good looking is the fifth way of making money. Yeah. I loved him. He died young, which I think probably just from embarrassment. I think somebody probably said, have you seen yourself? And they showed, and he just keeled right over. That's what I suspect. I'm not a doctor.
Oh my God. That is so funny. So we have a mutual friend. I bet we have more than one, but the one I'm referring to is Jim Packard, who is a just absolute. He's a genius and a great.
I wouldn't go crazy with that. Let's call him a nice man and leave it there.
That is not appropriate. So Jim is okay. Jim is a nice man, good dude. And you guys wrote a book together. And have you written other books?
Yeah, I do
a lot of research on my guests.
Yeah. You're gonna have to dig deep to find the other crap that I've written. I wrote a malarkey book and then I've written. I was trying to be a screenwriter for a while, so I've written a ton of stuff, and I kind of hit a place 5 years ago, where I was like, I think malarkey's done. I had done it for a really long time, and there weren't a lot of mysteries to the show left for me. And I'd explored writing new material and doing it. And I'm just like, it's time to move on. It's the third act. What are we going to do? And so I filled legal pads with thoughts and ideas. And, if I could talk about anything, what would it be? What could I talk about that would actually have relevance? What would I have liked to have learned when I started this whole, all those things. And so I pulled together kind of this concept that based around kind of three different things, one of which was an examination of the Pareto Principle in a little bit different way, one of which was an examination of this study that had been done 1 million years ago called the Marshmallow Test, and then this interview I read with Jerry Seinfeld. And kind of the basis of the whole, in a nutshell, the Pareto Principle was, 80% of the results come from 20% of the people. And I thought, why is that? When it comes to people, why is that? And I looked at all the differentiating factors between the people that were really, really good and successful and produced the most, and the other people. And when you eliminated all the things that were in common, intelligence, education, training ability, even ambition was equally present in both groups. So then the question was, well, what's the difference? And I felt like the difference came down to the 20% high performers did what needed to be done when it needed to be done on a relentlessly consistent basis. Yeah. And the 80% who struggle knew what needed to be done, but they didn't do it, and they certainly didn't do it consistently. And so that was kind of the basis, the beginning of this exploration, is how do we, what is the seat of inconsistency? How is it that some people struggle with inconsistency, and then how do you overcome it? And that's kind of the book that we've written. By the way, in case anybody's out there feeling bad, that the consistency chain for network marketing. If anybody's out there feeling bad that you're thinking, oh my gosh, I think I might be in the 80%, just know that that's me. That was the reason why I wrote this book. And I wrote the book for me. It's like I struggle with this, and I hated to see people fight this same fight and come away with all the shame and frustration that comes from not being able to keep the promises you make to yourself. And then the reason why Jim and I partnered on this is Jim's just the opposite. Jim is just the epitome of consistency. His entire life, he took a $500 investment and turned it into a $17 million a year company. And he was named distributor of the year at 2 different network marketing companies, which is where I met Jim. We were both involved in a network marketing company, and he was on stage, and I was firmly holding down my position in the back row. And I felt like, when people talk about success, it's always the 20%. It's always the people who've achieved success, and they're out there and they're saying the things that have worked for them. This is what works. I know, because I did it. And the challenge with that is that resonates with about 20% of the audience. And 80% of the audience understands what they're saying. We just can't put it into practice. And so what I wanted to do was just to have someone be able to come on stage, and I'm really just, it's kind of a fraud that I'm allowed to speak, because I'm not the 20%, but I am the person that the 80% are going to relate to. And I'm going to tell a story that's different than they've heard. And they're going to come away, and they come away with an understanding. And for the first time in their lives, they're going to see someone on stage that actually validates their experience. And so then I brought Jim in because I wanted to speak to both parts of the audience. I didn't want to make the mistake in reverse where the 20% are just talking to the 20%. I wanted to have us be able to, the combination of the two of us, speak to 100% of the audience and actually move the needle. So that was the impetus behind this entire project. I suddenly got really serious. Did you notice that? That's weird.
I love that though. And I think that I mean, I have a question about this that I think I know the answer to. See, I'm not smart enough to even remember what that word is. That, like, I'm going to ask you a question that I already know the answer.
Rhetorical?
Thank you. Yeah. See,
it's my gift. I know it's a privilege. I'm very in Ohio.
Dang it. I shouldn't have dropped out of high school. All right. So look, this book, although it says the consistency chain for network marketing, would it apply to anyone?
Absolutely. I mean, we originally wrote a general book, and then we had a publisher come to us and say, why don't you write a specific book for network marketing? And so we basically it's all the same information. We just, the examples are more network marketing oriented. But the reality is this is a book that anybody, it doesn't matter what you want to do, anything that you want to do that requires consistency on a day-to-day basis, this is a book. It doesn't matter if you're wanting to get in shape or lose weight or deepen your relationships or get ahead in your career or become more financially secure. The steps that we talk about can be applied to anything. And we've got a lot of testimonials to that fact. So yeah.
You have a lot of testimonials. I think and here's the other thing. I love it when people are like, network, is that one of those pyramid schemes? And I'm like, yes, because the corporate America job that you work at isn't. Like,
well, and I'm sorry, but you look at the pyramids, they've stood the test of time.
Amen.
People still go to visit them. So
right. I mean, I recently heard aliens built them. So, but I think that again, I think that anybody, if you said, hey, if you push really hard for a while, you can get to a place where, like Jordan Adler wrote Beat Money, right? And like you can get to a place in life where it's autopilot. Like there's just money that just comes in and you don't know how or why, but it just shows up every day. So, and most people would say, oh God, yeah, I'd love to have that.
Well, and we would all, I mean, 100% of the people are going to say they would love to have that. It's just that 80% of the people, and this is the second part of the book, which is the Marshmallow Test, we are literally wired not to be able to do it. And that's not conjecture. I mean, that's neuroscience now. I mean, they can look at a functional MRI and they can tell whether or not you are consistency prone or consistency averse. And so what the book is about is how we can basically hack that, how we can reposition ourselves so that how we can take because instant gratification and delayed gratification are the same thing as consistency. And so how can we take our insatiable desire for instant gratification and put it in service of achieving long-term goals? And that's basically what this book is about, is how we do that. The don't break the chain theory is the way that I went from virtually never working out, or certainly not regularly working out, to where I put together a string of 531 straight workout days without missing. And that's not something I could have done. I mean, that's just simply not possible. And that was the test case that I used to establish that, yeah, there is something here. And if you took that same thing and applied that 531 straight days to virtually anything else that you wanted to do, I mean, at the end of that year and a half, you're going to have made tremendous progress.
It's true. People don't think it, I mean, we've all heard the motivational speakers talk about 1% over a long distance,
right?
Is right. Like, or 1 degree, I'm sorry, 1 degree over a long distance is huge, right? So,
yep.
And this says a remarkably simple process for harnessing the power of habit, eliminating self-sabotage, and achieving your goals. So I have a really crazy question for you. What'd you say? So what about somebody that doesn't have goals because they don't really know what they want? You ever met that person? That's got to be most of the 80%.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's one of the things we talk about in there, is that goals for people, for 80% of the people, goals is not a winning strategy, because goals are, by definition, they're the embodiment of delayed gratification. And I know that the one thing I suck at is delayed gratification. So I don't want goals. Goals are not going to work for me. And I did all that goal setting crap, SMART goals. You ever done SMART goals? Specific, measurable, assignable, R. I never can remember R, T, time based, and I did all that crap. And then I would, I, George Campbell, me, assignable, will weigh 175 pounds, specific, measurable, on January 1, and then January 1 rolls around and I'm weigh 205 and I'm like, damn it, So what I did, and the way we suggest you do this, is we don't set goals. I'm going to set a direction. So like when I said I'm going to work out, I didn't say I'm going to weigh 175 pounds with 6% body. I didn't do any of that crap. All I said was I'm going to be fitter, I'm going to be stronger, and I'm going to be healthier. And so the huge advantage to this was I would go to the gym, I would come back, I could look at myself in the mirror with complete integrity and say, I am fitter, I am stronger, I am healthier. And not only had I taken one more step in the direction that I wanted to go, but I'd also fed my desire for instant gratification. I'm like, yeah. I wasn't waiting for something in the future to occur to validate the fact that I won. I won today. And that was the reason why I could keep showing up, because every day it felt good. I felt great about myself. I won. And that was instant gratification. So when I talk about putting instant gratification in service of achieving long-term goals, that's what we're talking about. It's a different way to think about it.
That might be one of the most brilliant things ever said on this show. I think that
you've got to start getting better guests.
I know, but no, seriously, I think about that, like how many times I've had a goal that I set that I didn't get to, which is most people. Like, I want to, make $2 million this year, and you write that down over and over and over, and like, I only made 1.2. I'm kidding, but like,
yeah,
no, but like you don't achieve that, and instead, so how would you replace that? Like, let's say you want to make $2 million. How would you replace, instead of making the goal $2 million, how would you replace that?
I would say, okay, so what is the activities that I'm going to be involved in that would result in me making $2 million? Is that like 5 calls a day? Do I know what my numbers are? Do I can say they make 5 calls a day that it's going to connect me with one person that's going to buy, and that person, the amount of that is going to result in me accumulating that. So then I'm going to pull away from 5 calls a day, and I'm just saying I'm headed in the direction of being wealthier and more secure. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make 5 calls a day. And I'm only focusing on the 5 calls a day. I'm going to release the results because I don't care about the results in the moment. I only care about the action. And so if I focus on the 5 calls a day, the $2 million is going to show up or not show up at the time that I want it to. But I can't control that. I can't control whether or not anybody buys. I can't control any of that. The only thing I can control is the activities that I engage in on a daily basis and the skill that I bring to that. And I know that my skill is going to increase with repetition. So so I would back off from the 2 million. That's a great thing. $2 million is awesome. But the reality is the majority of people that set that as a goal are going to fail because it's too far away and it's too unrealistic, and it's just, I hear the challenge is there are people that can do that. There are people that can do that. Yeah. And those are the people that get on stage and tell people that this is the way you do it. And I'm just saying for a great many people, it ain't. And all we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for this loop of failure where I said it and I did all that stuff. They always say, we did a study and the people that really succeeded were people who had written goals. And I'm like, great. What about the people who didn't succeed, who also had written goals? They don't get to be in your book, do they? So you're self-selecting this group and saying, this is the way to do it. And I'm telling you that it works for you. And that's kind of a leadership trap that I see, especially in network marketing. It's a leadership trap. Well, this is the way I do it. So this is the way you need to do it. And I'm saying, if you're cool with 97% of the people that you worked your butt off to get into your organization, if you're cool watching them disappear over a relatively short period of time, then keep doing that. But if you'd like to actually empower and make true on the promise that you make to people saying that you can do this, then it may be incumbent upon you to understand that they're going to operate a little bit differently. And maybe it would be great to give them some tools that are actually going to work for them, as opposed to something that's going to just lead to frustration and failure and quitting. And the reason why I say that is because that was my experience. I mean, the reason why, because I saw network marketing early and I thought this is the most elegant business system I've ever seen in my life. And then I failed and failed and failed, and I could not get my head around it. And it wasn't until I got to the other side that, where I built a successful speaking career. And I'm like, how is it possible that I could be good at this and suck so badly at that? And that was part of this investigation. I wanted to know the answer. Because I knew that there were lots of people out there sitting in rooms at network marketing events that were experiencing exactly what I felt. Because when we would get together, that's what the conversation would be. Is I just don't understand. I don't understand why I want to do this, and I believe in it. And I believe our products are good. I believe our services are good. And somehow there's a disconnect, because I know from the excitement of this weekend meeting, I'm going to go home on Monday and I'm going to do nothing, and I don't understand why. And that was my heart goes out to those people, because I'm them. And I'm like, if there's something I could do, and this is a very small subset of the world, just network marketing. It applies to everything. I mean, there's a lot of people in this position, but that was the one I was most familiar with, and that's the one we wrote the book about. But I'm like, man, if I can make a difference in this little tiny part of the world, holy cow, would that be worthwhile?
Wow, man, that is legacy right there. That's how you build legacy. It is. And look, I get it, man. I'm right there with you. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror right now. Like because I've so many times I've thought, but I was at I shouldn't say, okay, but I was at this event and I walked on the coals, damn it. And I said I every time the guy said say I. And I said I, and I walked on the freaking coals. And what the hell, man? Why is right? Like,
Well, and the thing is, there are parts of our lives where we have the ability to walk on the coals, and there's part of our lives, for most of us, I mean, with the whole 80-20 thing, there are very few people that are pure 80% or pure 20%.
right.
And the example I always use is Oprah. I mean, as a business person, holy cow, she's in the 2% or the
Yeah.
0.012%, whatever it is. I mean, she's awesome. You know, when she decided she was, but the area of her life she couldn't manage was her weight and health and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And she had every advantage of the world. When she decided she was going to do Weight Watchers, the 20% part of Oprah bought Weight Watchers stock because she knows that's going to go up. That's the part of her that's the genius part. And the other part, the 80% part of her that I still don't know. I haven't seen any real recent pictures of Oprah to tell me that she's had a stunning success. Still getting control of that. And she's got every advantage. I mean, my God, you think about it. She could have a private chef and a personal trainer. She could pay somebody $1,000 a day just to come around and slap food out of her mouth. And still, she struggles with this. And so there's very few people that don't have an 80% part of them.
Right.
And that was kind of the thing. So the studies that were the brain studies were done, the people like Jim, who's consistent, tend to make their decisions in a part of the brain that's really good at that, really good at looking at the future and positioning this action in relative, if I engage in this action on a daily basis, what's the outcome going to be? And they make the decision based on that. And then there's people like me that think in the part of the brain that's much more primal. And it's like, it's basically the criteria is it easy? Is it safe? Is it pleasurable? Which were great questions forever.
Wow.
You know, I mean, easy was important when you were, 200 million years ago, when you're having to decide whether or not you're going to get more calories back from this food than you're going to expend getting it. You know, safe was important when because the kid back in the day that said, "Hey, a woolly mammoth, I wonder if he'll let me pet him." That kid's not passing on his genes. And then pleasurable with procreation of the species. So easy, safe, pleasurable were awesome questions to ask them, but they don't serve us well now.
Right.
Because well, it's like for me in network marketing, was it easy for me to call somebody? No. Is it safe? No. They could reject me. Is it pleasurable? No. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do nothing. And I'm not going to say I'm never going to do it. I'm just going to do it tomorrow because tomorrow's such week. You can't call. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, it's Thursday. You can't. People getting ready for the weekend. You can't call people on Thursdays. Everybody knows that,
right?
And it's also the reason why when I dug into it, how could I be successful in comedy, which by all measurables is a much harder field to succeed in the network marketing, numbers wise.
Yeah.
How could I succeed there and in professional? Well, I could because comedy for me is easy. I mean, our conversation, there's nothing easier. I can make people laugh. It's easy. Is it safe? Absolutely. I'm never more safe than I am on stage. I'm in complete control. I've never had an experience on stage that didn't feel safe. Is it pleasurable? Are you kidding? I make people laugh. I get checks. So the reason why I could succeed in comedy where I failed miserably in network marketing, one was easy, safe, and pleasurable, and the other was none of those. And so then it's how do you structure this in such a way that you actually get leverage over yourself to make so earning $2 million is not easy. And it's not safe because I'm going to say I'm going to do it, and the chances of me doing it are done. And it would be pleasurable to have it, but the journey certainly may not be pleasurable. So instead of saying $2 million, instead I'm going to say I'm going to make 5 calls a day. Is that easy? Yeah, I could totally make 5 calls a day. That's easy. Here's my plan. I'm going to 2 a.m, 1. Is it safe? Yeah, it's safe because I'm going to release the results. It doesn't matter what they say. So it's totally safe. Is it pleasurable? I feel good about myself. Having done them this day, I feel like, dude, I'm proud of you. And that's pleasurable. And so it's just a matter of reframing those necessary actions into something that resembles a plan that's going to take you in a direction.
So it's a matter of, instead of I'm going to weigh 175 pounds, it's I'm going to go work out today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be proud of myself for doing that.
Yep. And by definition, I know if I say I'm going to be fitter, healthier, stronger, I know by definition I have to be. It's just real. There's not even I'm not required to believe anything at that point. It's just fact. All I'm doing is just recognizing an absolute fact. So I'm not requiring myself to believe that I'm going to weigh 175 pounds. No, I'm just recognizing the fact that I did what I said I was going to do, and I'll be doggone if I am not fitter, stronger, healthier.
Well, you sold at least one book today. Francois, my buddy, said you just so eloquently summed up 97% of people's frustrations. It's true. You really did. So, I think first off, I want to say thank you for coming on, and dude, you're amazing. And I'm sure you've heard that a million times in your life.
Get it all the time. Just
every day.
Really, at this point. Yep.
People call you, hey, I just wanted to remind you. But I think what you just said, wow, it's so true. I can think of, I'm friends with Grant Cardone. I'm friends with some really great people that are great motivators too, right? But I've so often thought, man, why am I not hitting the same strides? Why am I? And I know so many people have, like why don't I have a freaking jet? I want a jet too, damn it. Like, well, but I think that, and Victoria is asking for the name of the book. It's called The Consistency Chain
for Network
Marketing. I might just remove the network marketing. I'm kidding. But look, I don't care if you're in network marketing or you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a stay-at-home dad or whatever. The secret to life and success in life is right here. It's right here.
And think about this too. If you mentioned moms and dads, you think about kids, because if you're a 20% hard charging dad and you have an 80% son, and I've seen this play out.
Yeah.
There's a tension and a misunderstanding, and it just results in both sides being frustrated and one side being shamed. And if you can help in the context of a family saying, okay, I understand, your path is going to be a little bit different than mine, but it's absolutely a good path. Let me help you, as opposed to trying to force somebody to do things in a way that they're never going to be successful at, or very unlikely. So
what's the marshmallow test? I just opened the book. I haven't read it yet. What's the marshmallow test?
The marshmallow test was a test that they did at Stanford University in the 1970s, late 1960s, 70s. And they took 300 5-year-olds one by one into a room and set a marshmallow on the table and said, listen, that marshmallow is yours to eat anytime you want. I'm going to leave. I'm going to be back in 10, 15 minutes. If that marshmallow is still there, you get a second marshmallow. And so the question was, when they came back, how many kids had eaten the marshmallow? The answer is 80%. It's always 80-20. It's always 80-20. And so, but the cool thing was they did a follow-ups. So they tracked these kids at their midway through their teenage years, and they found that the 20% kids that did not eat the marshmallow, that displayed delayed gratification, higher GPAs, higher SATs, and were judged to be more socially advanced. Midlife, they track in again, higher educational attainment, more professional advancement, lower divorce rate. And then they finally did the last one, and this is the one I kind of mentioned, was they brought them back in 2011, and they put them in a functional MRI machine. And a technician could look at the results, the activity level in 1 or 2 areas of the brain, and tell you with 100% certainty whether or not that test subject did or did not eat the marshmallow 50 years prior.
Holy crap.
So that's what we're dealing with when you're getting somebody pumped up and motivated. You're not dealing with the part of the brain that's actually going to make the decision. It's like you're always talking to the gatekeeper and not the decision maker for 80% of the people. And unless you understand how to talk to that 80% of the brain and how to make this easy, safe, and pleasurable, you're never going to get movement. Not consistent.
I would have eaten the marshmallow.
Oh my God. I would have eaten the marshmallow before the guy got done explaining the experiment. He would not. He would have said, George, now this is your marshmallow. And wait. And then it'd be too late. I'm like, well, give me another one. Let's go double or nothing. What do you say?
Right. I don't trust you. You're going to come back and take this marshmallow. I'm eating it now, dude. It's gone.
Well, Jim and I do these Zoom calls where we kind of go through this stuff. And Jim asked me one day, because I eat the marshmallow on the camera, and then it makes it really hard to talk, and it's kind of funny. And he goes, "Are we going to do the marshmallow thing where you eat the marshmallow?" I said, "No, we're not going to do that today." He goes, "Well, why aren't we going to do that today?" And I said, "Well, because I ate all my marshmallows." I don't have any marshmallows for the show today.
That is so funny. Holy crap. Yeah. Oh my God. Listen, everybody watching, like, we're way over time. I don't care though. It's the internet. It's my show. Doesn't matter. But here, look, everybody needs to right now go. First you can go to kenwalls.shop, and that takes you to my Amazon store. And I have this book in my Amazon store already. So go over there and click on it and buy it. I don't even know how much it is, but it's worth $1 million. So if it's $1 million, borrow it from your mom or something and buy the book. I don't even know how much it is. How much is it? Do you know?
The Kindle's 14, like 10 and the other's 12 or something. I don't know.
So no money. So go get a copy of the book right now. The consistency chain for
network marketing
for life. The consistency chain for life. We changed the title today. It's not just for network marketing, you guys. It's for anybody. Go get this book right now. And George, are you active anywhere on social media that people can follow you?
There's a consistency chain thing on Facebook and on Twitter, I think. And I don't spend a ton of time on either one of those two things. And I'm George Campbell on Facebook too. And I still have some room there. I will tell you, there's a conversation we ought to revisit, because I'm working on some new stuff that I think is really interesting coming out of COVID. And I've got a new program called How to Ride an Alligator. And
How to
Ride an Alligator.
Okay.
And it's basically, just to belabor and run this some more way over time, it's the idea that we gave up so much stuff in COVID, but one of the things that we gave up that we really haven't appreciated yet is we gave up a sense of certainty. And it's tough for people to take action in an uncertain world. And it's like, I talk about the coin flip. You flip a coin, and for however many years we've been on the planet, we've known the probability is 50-50 heads or tails, but the certainty always it's going to be 50. It's going to be one of those two. And so 2020 came around and we flipped the coin. We looked at it and it came up alligators. And we're like, okay, I didn't even know that was possible, that you could flip a coin and come up alligator. We kept flipping it, and every time we flipped it, it came up alligators. Everything that we were certain of. I mean, we don't want to necessarily want to go to work, but we know Monday morning we're going to be in the office.
Yeah.
And then 2020 came around, it came up alligators. Tuesday we're going to pick up the kids from school, swing by the grocery store, pick up some toilet paper because we're getting low. Alligators. Wednesday we're going to get our hair cut. Thursday we're going out to dinner with the Jamesons. Friday we're babysitting the kids or grandkids. Saturday we're going to the big game. Sunday we're going to church. And every single one of the times we flipped the coin, it came up alligators. So we had this seismic shift in certainty. And so my contention is that anytime you have this kind of disruption, there's positives and negatives. The negative is it shook everything up. The positive is it shook everything up. And if we're going to put all our certainties on the table, then let's examine all the things that are on the table, because there's some things that we're certain of about ourselves that limit us. And I'm just saying, let's flip the coin on those. Let's find if they come up alligators, because if it comes up alligators, guess what? We don't have to believe that anymore. And if we start to get rid of some of these things that we believe that we can or can't do, then it opens up a whole world to us. And so that's where a seismic shift in certainty can actually come into benefit for us. So that's the new program. Yeah.
Are you writing a book on this?
I'm just writing the program right now. I'm going to go out and beta test it here in hopefully the next 10 days. I found this really cool new platform that's going to actually allow me to take people to different places, and it's broken up into these different sections. There's a race car section. There's a courtroom session where we actually are going to put your limiting beliefs on trial. Wow. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks. It's a brilliant movie. And that's what I want to do, is I want to what's the validity of these? And I basically play the part of your defense attorney. I'm acting in your defense. Is this true?
Wow.
And then the final thing is, once we realize that that these beliefs are not nearly as certain as we thought they were, then how do you take action? How do you take that first action that will break you towards movement and momentum? And then the consistency chain is a perfect companion piece, because then the consistency chain is once you break that initial inertia, how do you keep going? So the kind of folds together beautifully within these two things.
So Victoria said, "Oh wow, sold. You need to have your pre-sale site ready."
I know. There's so many. If I were a better person, life would be so much easier. I don't know what it is.
I asked him before we came on live, I said, "So did you lived in Oklahoma? Is that right?" And he said, "I did. Yeah, but the judge finally said I could leave."
I was free to go. Yeah. There's a statute of limitations on almost everything. That's what I discovered. If you can live long enough, it's possible you can have your entire record expunged.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Dude, you are George. I said, dude, here I'm talking to the astute George Campbell, Hall of Fame speaker, and I just called him dude. So
I think I'm totally cool with that, by the way.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I rarely rise above the dude level. This is a very rare piece of interchange we've had.
This has been awesome, man. I'd love to do some more stuff, and I know we're going to do. You and I and Jim, we're going to do an Amazon Live, get you guys on Amazon talking about the book. And wow, this has been incredible. Thank you for coming on and sharing. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I had a good time.
It's been amazing. Anna says, "Cool, dude." That's awesome.
I hope that isn't a gang sign.
That's a gang sign, right?
I may have just flashed something. I don't know. Go Amish or something. I don't know. My gang sign's that good.
Go Amish. Oh my God, that's hilarious. All right, George, hang with me. I'm going to end the live stream, but thank you to everybody who's hung out. Go grab a copy of The Consistency Chain. Somebody type in the comments www.kenwalls.shop. That's where you can go pick it up. It's in my Amazon store. So, George, listen, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your humor, your wisdom. And, man, this has been fun. Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.